on to our next session, the leaders panel, we have Mr. Vineet Verma, Director of Brigade Hospitality, moderating this panel. Joining him, we have Mr. Abhishek Logani, Chief Business Officer, Hotels, Make My Trip, Mr. Puneet Dhawan, Senior Vice President, Operations, India and South Asia, Accor, Mr. Rohit Khosla, Executive Vice President, Operations, IHCL, and Mr. Sanjay Sharma, Managing Director, India and Southwest Asia, Hyatt Hotels Corporation.
Good afternoon, everyone. So may I request my fellow panelists to join me on the stage? So it's not very often that an owner rep gets to grill the operators. This is the first time I was given this opportunity and I grabbed it. Thank you, Manav. But however, the subject matter that we've chosen today is something that I hope that I'm sure all of us have been through it for the last more than 2 years, starting March 2020. We've been through one of the worst times, and fortunately, of course, all those are behind us, keeping our fingers and toes crossed. As I keep saying that, that COVID, the pandemic has been the most hostile to the most hospitable sector. And that has been unfortunate. But I think each and every operator, every hotel owner, without exception, has come out thriving, I would say. And of course, unfortunately, we lost not only money, but we also lost a few of our very dear colleagues in the past. But we pray that better times are ahead of us. But having said that, there are a few issues, and I'm sure that all of us have learned a great deal from this pandemic. And one of the biggest challenges that, right from the morning, this has been mentioned, starting with Dilip himself, that the manpower, the talent pool has shrunk. Some of us, of course, there are some exceptions like Taj possibly and all, where they did not have to furlough people or reduce the strength, but in quite a few other cases, they had to bring down the staff count. Some of these people left the city. I know, for example, we have 8 operating hotels ourselves, and quite a few of my people went back home to their respective, what they call their natives. And they suddenly discovered the joy of farming and their father's business. So they're all now raising chicken or sowing the seeds for wheat and other maize and all, and they don't want to come back. So having said that, I'll probably start the discussion at that particular point and maybe start with Sanjay yourself, that while we keep talking about this challenge, this problem, that there is an acute shortage of manpower today, but what are the solutions? What are we going to do? Long term, of course, the schools like Dilip's school, and in fact, I wanted to also say, though I don't want to promote my own company, but I have to say that we are setting up a Brigade Skill Development Academy over a 5-acre land very close to the Bangalore International Airport, where one of the vocational trainings will be even in hospitality, tourism and travel and hospitality. But having said that, what do you think are the challenges you have faced, Sanjay, and how do you think we should be addressing that in the long term?
Thank you, Vineet. And first of all, a very good morning or good afternoon to all the superstars of the industry who are here. And I want to really thank you for what you did over the last 2 years and what you're going to do and are doing for the industry. And I think you are the perfect example of what resilience is. So thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for yourself. And irrespective of the brand or where we work, I think we are put together proud of each one of you. And thank you for being here for us. We just are a face of what you do. So I'm very, very honored and also indebted to what you do. Coming to the question, I think, Vineet, the challenge is not of today. We would be lying to ourselves if we said that we faced this challenge due to the pandemic. It got accelerated and it compounded because of the pandemic. But talent was an issue with our industry from many moons. It's not a new challenge. And I think we need to look within ourselves first and say, okay, what were we doing right and what could be improved? I think it all starts from hiring, whether we are hiring a workforce, what are we hiring for, whether we are hiring for passion, we are hiring for just a job. So at the hiring stage itself, we need to really look at how can we look at better hiring ways. I won't say processes, because in today's world, processes kind of, and in our industry as well, people talk a lot about processes. Our industry is about relationships. The process has to fit the relationship rather than relationship fitting the process, whether it is the customer or our work colleagues. So I think that's something which we need to really look at, start from hiring. We need to look at how can we engage the current passionate hoteliers who have hotel in their heart. It can't be a means to money. It can't be a means to to their daily expenses. It has to be a means of serving their passion truly from what they believe it is about serving. We have to look at how we can inculcate that hoteliering is about serving. It's about forming relationships. It's about bonds. It's about how can we stick together or gel together. That's the binding force we have to apply, we have to get. There are various ways we can look at. We have at Hyatt, we did a lot of things. Every chain, I wouldn't say only Hyatt, I wouldn't single out Hyatt, but I'm really very thankful to all the brands, all the chains, that what we did in engaging our workforce, whether it is the present workforce or people who are our workforce who we are welcoming into our families. So for us, Hyatt is a family. Now, we may have differences in family. People may go out of the family, but we need to ensure that we are sending ambassadors out. That's something which we need to look at. Now, if you're looking at training our people, engaging our people, also it's not that you start talking to them when they start feeling a bit, not interested, not engaged. We need to keep on talking to them from the very beginning. What they require, how they're feeling, what could we do better. If you look at data, most of the chains would see that their people who would leave, or the workforce who leaves within 6 months. Most of the data says that. I may be wrong for some, but if you look at churn your data and mine your data, it would tell you 6 months is the period where you make it or break it. If you have the stickiness for that much, then people understand your ethos. They understand they are passionate, they are hoteliers, they are here to serve. Then we need to build them in such a way that we actually accelerate their passion, we work on their passion, and we help them to achieve their aspirations. We are not CEOs or MDs or whatever designations they are. All of us are resources here who are available to the people who are joining our family. If we can reflect that in our daily engagements, you see how it changes. We have been fortunate, Hyatt, where we have had challenges. However, we are in a much comfortable position than we were. If you know, we are going to open 11 hotels this year. So we have already opened about 7, and we had challenges, but we could mitigate those challenges, and that was done through our colleagues and our ambassadors who were there outside, who have been coming back. If you look at a lot of our people who came back from overseas, who are not even working with us overseas. They just came back because they want to be home. Because we always say, okay, how has our mindset changed? We also need to look at how their mindset has changed. And then we need to work our mindset to gel in with their mindset. So I think if we can look at all these things, it's
good points, Sanjay. But just I have a quick question before I request Rohit to speak. Is that what I was also referring to is the fresh supply. See, when you're talking about engaging with the existing team, I agree. But what happens to the fresh supply down the years? Today, if you go for a new hotel launch, and I went to one recently, you find a lot of my team members have joined that hotel. So it's basically poaching right now. So what is happening is that the existing team is going from one hotel to the other hotel. So my concern is, how do we ensure 5 years down the line, you have 2,000 hotels, and even if you take a staff to room ratio of 1:1, you need 2,000 fresh people joining your industry. So where are you going to get them from?
So great point. So again, when I said hiring doesn't mean only for the hotels. Hiring you can take also for these colleges. There was a report I read that there's only 60% of seats are vacant or 60% occupied. One of those. Again, if you look at today, any of the hotel schools, how many people after completing are actually joining hotels? We have an issue there. So what are we doing to resolve that? That again comes at the stage when are you truly a hotel school, or you're saying, no, I'm going to train you for this. We need to look at how we can churn out more colleagues from these schools than going out to the other industries. Again, we go back to hiring. So hiring for the schools, not for the hotels, but at the level when they are doing their interviews or their exams, they need to see is the passion hoteliering or is it a means to get a job later? So we need to really focus on that and say, because they are the people who will, for us, look at training these people and creating more passion for the industry. So we, at the schools as well, we need to create more passion for the industry, not generalize, saying that, okay, you need to learn kitchen, you can be in the kitchen, food and beverage service, front office. You know, say, how can we get hoteliering? It's not about components of the industry. It's about hoteliering itself in the DNA of the student who's at the college. We need to somehow do that.
Thanks, Sanjay. Rohit, your views?
Good afternoon. First of all, I think Sanjay has done a great job of setting the base. So I won't go into those specs because he's already covered a major part of which is quite common to all of us sitting here. I think I'll just focus on a couple of things that helped us. Like was mentioned in the previous sessions also, we're very fortunate to work for IHCL and part of the Tata Group and the values. And so during the pandemic, we didn't lay off any people. What we did was, yes, we right-sized, like Anil was mentioning in the previous session. We right-sized and we redeployed people. So what we really did was not, get rid of people, but we opened a hotel every month during the pandemic. During the pandemic, a hotel every month. And if we were opening a hotel every month, you can imagine where the people were coming from during the pandemic. They were coming from within the system because we were, in a sense, not right-sized. All of us in the hospitality industry, especially in Asia, are a little spoiled. We believe more number of human beings means better service. And we believe that is what guests are looking for. Well, that's not true. So you have to, figure out new ways of doing things. So one was redeployment. So if you're saying how we're opening new hotels, we are continuously still redeploying because there was a huge backlog of overstaffing in the past. The second thing that we did is that we relooked at the manner in which we have structured our operations. So, traditionally you have front office, housekeeping, F&B, different departments. We have something called the A1 concept, which encourages cross departmental working, right? So there's a team that gets trained in 4 verticals of hotels. And then depending on the time of the day, they move from one role to the other role so that you are actually able to reduce the number of people. And this really helps in a simple thing that, when you do, these rostering and you do 3 people a day, so many offs, etc., and then you say so many relievers, and then there's a reliever sitting here, there's a reliever sitting here, there's a reliever sitting here. So when you combine all of it together, the number of relievers get reduced. So that's one example of how you right size through A1. Another thing in which how we broad-based our recruitment program is we have something called the DIVA program, right? And the DIVA program is especially a program that we have to encourage ladies to join our business. And we do some hinterland recruiting. So when I say hinterland recruiting, this is not from the normal catering colleges, etc. Some schools and universities and colleges really located in far away from cities. So we are able to go there and attract people. We have, at this point in time, as we speak, 200 ladies who are training with us in the DIVA program. And they will be coming into the system. So that's one way of, looking at this broad basing. The third thing that we do at IHCL is we have, that the Tata Group is extremely focused on community development, and skill building is a very important thing. So we have something called Strive. This is Tata Strive, and along with Tata Strive and IHCL, we have skill building programs. So we don't go traditionally looking for a hotel management student. Somebody who's even done 3 months of just F&B or 3 months of just kitchen or housekeeping, you take them at a skill level, train them, and give them a job. And we certify them. It's certified by the government. So these are ways in which I believe you can expand. Do we have a problem? We have a severe problem, like Sanjay said. If you're going to have 60% of your seats vacant in hotel schools, and worse, when people graduate from hotel schools, they're not really coming to hotels, we have a serious problem. And all of us sitting in this room need to think about it. because it could be compensation, it could be work-life balance, it could be the kind of environment we are providing to our people, and the kind of learning and development opportunities. So I think we as an industry need to wake up. That's my belief.
Thanks, Rohit. Actually, this has been the latest fad that, we're talking about the work-life balance. The youngsters today, they're comparing a hotel industry with a 14-hour workday and with possibly lesser pay as compared to the IT sector or the BPO sector or even the facility management sector. Today, that's the latest that's happening. I have lost a lot of people to facility management side, where you get a 5-day work week. So your work-life balance happens. You get to go out on weekends and enjoy yourself. So our challenge is going to be, how do we, as you said, we need to market hospitality right. You need to market hoteliering right from your student days. So I think that's something that we need to all think about, that how do we start planning towards that in the long run. Puneet.
Thanks, Vineet. I'll take it from there. Good afternoon, everyone. Great to be here. This is my second HOSI in the last 2 years, and thank you for all of you being here and making the effort. And it's great to see a room full of mostly men, but some women as well. Hopefully the diversity will be much better next year when we're here, but without masks. That's the important thing. And as it was said earlier, I think the pandemic is hopefully behind us, and we can look at much stronger growth in the years to come. I think I want to take over where you left, Vineet. The challenge is, first of all, if we go back, how did we treat our people during the pandemic? I think we can all admit none of us had a playbook. As Anil said earlier, we know how to open hotels. We didn't know how to close hotels, close restaurants. Nobody ever taught us. None of us had ever dealt with the situation in that. And I think as an industry, we all probably did make some mistakes. How we handled our people, our most important resources. From a core point of view, early on in the game, in April 2020, we launched a global fund, the Accor Artist Fund. It was a 70 million euro fund created purely to help staff working in any Accor hotel in the world who was distressed, who had financial need, and they could ask for funds from the Accor Artist Fund. So in India, and Vineet knows because we manage 3 of the Grand Mercure properties. In India, we disbursed more than €1 million among probably about 3,000 of our artists. So I think that again showed us we as an operator had a skin in the game. We had empathy, we understood their pain. So it was really, really important how we behaved, our value systems during that time. And that I think is holding us in good position now as things are coming back, and the hunt and the war for talent, is really, really intensifying. So I think the challenge remains, we as an industry, frankly, are not attractive. I mean, I wouldn't reckon my kids, working 14, 16 hours. The salaries are really, really low. These are the facts, and I agree with Rohit. I think we as an industry, or leaders of industry, you as leaders of your property, together we need to really come up with some new solutions. We cannot just recycling and repackaging and do that lip service. Yes, we have this wonderful working conditions. We really need to provide that, all right? Whether it's the food we serve, or the hours they have, or the number of offs they have, the uniforms they have, and the career as well. So from a core point of view, we are kind of, I would say, re-engineering that whole ethos of, do you really need, rather than being tenure-based promotion, it should be really performance-based. If a front office executive is doing really, really well, why can't they be a duty manager in 1 year? Why do they have to go through 4 or 5 layers and positions to become a duty manager? And same thing for general managers as well. So if we don't show that agility, the movement across the ranks, and frankly, I think we need to reduce the layers. There are too many layers. We follow the old-fashioned organization chart, which incidentally started more than 150 years ago for the railroads. But all our hotels typically still follow that, layered organization chart. So I think we need to get rid of that. It's really very restrictive, and frankly, it's not really suitable for whether it's the Gen Z, or we don't really require it. So I think there's a lot of introspection required, a lot of reinvention. We are in a blessed industry. in this room, we have more or less all the brands. There are probably, 100 odd hotels we will open in India next year. So of course we need talent. We need to increase the ecosystem. So you're right. Typically we were looking for the hotel school graduates, but our industry is really not rocket science, right? I mean, you don't really need to go to a hotel school to be able to serve people or to communicate with people. So I think that ecosystem has to go much, much wider. And we have to go to the hinterland. We need to go to, sources which we typically don't go, hiring kids coming out of, public schools in the key cities. So I think India, we've got huge talent, huge diversity. We need to accept it, but we really need to change.
Thank you, Vineet. Abhishek, any views from your side, please?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Mana, for getting us all back together. So while we've heard from the hospitality industry, I'll give you a different challenge which we as e-commerce faced during this time, very different challenge, but again, a similar talent challenge. We also saw a shortage of people coming in the e-commerce industry. So what we saw was, people going back home and getting very comfortable, working from home. What we also saw was with the valuations increasing and a lot of new companies coming in, the talent pool for technology specifically faced a very different kind of a challenge, right? So there, I think as Make My Trip, what we did was in the early days, this culture which we came up with was, yes, we went through a bad phase. We did have salary cuts, but as soon as things came back, we were actually handed back all the salary cuts which were done. Right? So we were one of the pioneers in doing that. But the challenge now which we face is as the talent in the technology industry becomes sparse and the valuation going back, it's cooling off now. So things are improving for us. We didn't face a challenge which the hospitality industry faced, but we had a very different kind of a challenge. The good news is things are getting better. We also made it a point that as soon as we got a chance, we got people back to office because that was something which people were, a little reluctant to come back, but I think we are back to office. We are working full strength. Things are back. Hopefully we go up and above from here.
Thanks, Abhishek. So Rohit mentioned about the right sizing and all that. So I have another question for all of you, is that let's say earlier the staff to room ratios in India we realized were, let's say for a 5-star deluxe property, over 2:1. And today during the pandemic, we have been able to manage very nicely with 1:1 in the same hotel. Of course, with the banqueting also now going to go up, MICE category events are happening, so maybe we might go up to 1.25, 1.3, but never back to 2:1, because we have all realized that Indian hospitality generally is a lot of stuff. The Atithi Devo Bhava spirit is the best in India. So you have 4 valets waiting for you, you have 2 people welcoming you, so all that is now gone. But all this is possible also because of a lot of digital intervention all of you have brought in. A lot of technology that you have brought in. So my question to all of you is that what is the technological intervention you've already brought into your respective hotels, and what is the way forward in the coming years? What do you think happening 2 years, 3 years down the line in terms of digital intervention? Yeah, anybody can start.
I think you're right, Vineet. There has been, we again as a hospitality industry, whenever the early adopters of technology, right? We're all the when it's all tried and tested, then we try to pick up that technology. So I think, again, the pandemic really as an industry gave us an opportunity because we frankly had no choice, right? Like the QR code technology existed for many, many years in many industries, but we adopted in our restaurants very aggressively because there was no choice. So I think a lot of the technology is being developed, whether it's the hybrid meetings. I think that will continue. We, during the pandemic, launched the Viva at Novotel, a hybrid wedding concept, which may or may not have a future, not quite sure yet. But I think the hybrid meetings is here to stay. I don't think the staffing levels will ever go back. Because Indian hospitality did have, and it again comes back to, having a very traditional approach. It's probably a little bit cultural as well, as you said. Atiti Devo Bhava. It's probably more prevalent here. If you go to any luxury hotel in a developed economy, you would not have those doormen and 5-6 people in the concierge, and many hotels across the world have stopped room service, for example. It's just a grab and go concept, or you can just order on your app and the hotel will facilitate, but they're completely removing room service. But India, I think there's still a long way ahead. But the technology, yes, we have adopted. There's more to come. But the staffing levels where they are today, there's efficiency that have been gained. But I think we have to be careful. A lot of those efficiencies were done when the numbers were very low, right? So what we need to be careful of is, as the volumes come back across the board, whether it's city hotels, MICE hotels, leisure always did well in the last 2 years, that cost creep has to be very, very carefully mapped out. We cannot go back to 2019 levels, because from a global standpoint to view, it was an inefficient kind of manning ratios we had in the country. But with the digitization, automation, and I think our guests are changing as well, right? A guest is happy to carry his hand carriage and go to the room. People are driving lighter, or order through QR code, or use the technology. So they are adopting as well. So this trend will continue, and I think there's more of technology that will be incorporated into our hotels.
So any specific technology that you can talk about, what you introduced, and how has it helped you in terms of operating a hotel more efficiently?
So I think whether it's the QR codes or the ordering or room service, you don't have to call. You can just order on the app, or we're introducing that you don't have to go to the front desk at all. If you are a call less our loyalty member, you can check in by your phone. So all these things, again, reduce the staffing.
On the flip side, do you think it's taking a lot of personalization away from hoteliering?
There is a trade-off, no doubt.
It's becoming very unemotional, and
there is a trade-off, and some guests still want that. So that's why I think you have to cater. Even in restaurants, the menus are coming back, because a lot of guests are saying, I don't want to use the QR code. I want the menu in hand, right? It's happening to all of us. So I think it's a balance.
Abhishek, you want to say?
Yeah, so, Vineet, you made an interesting point that is it letting go of the personalization. But what we also see is there is a set of customers who love going and doing things through technology. There is a kick which the customer gets if you're doing a check-in via a QR code. So there is a set of customers who are tech savvy, and if anything, the pandemic has accelerated that set of customers, right? So there is a set of customers who would say that, okay, I'm very happy to check in with the QR code. I'm very happy to order with the QR code. I don't need I don't need to call the F&B if I want to order. I'm happy ordering with the app. Has this accelerated? Yes. So some of these things are maybe changing the mindset, and they are like changes which have happened for a long time now. I don't think these set of people will go back. So there is a set of people who has just gone ahead and adopted technology in a very different way now, right? Who knew that so many people will start online ordering? All of us were online ordering when we were at home, right? So the internet penetration of India doubled just during the pandemic. There were 100 million people buying online. That's changed to 200 million. So these new 100 million people are very, very adept to technology. They love doing things with technology.
Rohit?
So great. I think they covered most of the technology stuff that interacts with the guest. But I think in hotels we have to look at even efficiencies in our processes, and we have to look at efficiencies in our huge drain on our EBITDA, which is obviously the heat light part. We have to look at sustainability going forward, and technology enhances our ability to be more sustainable in business. So while there's IT technology, there's also other technologies that are being used. A simple thing like, when we say reduce plastic for sustainability, people say, okay, let's go for bottled water in guest rooms. So there is a technology that you have to invest in, which is a water bottling plant. There's a water bottling cleaning plant. There's a filling plant. There's a stamping plant. So there's technology there too. So let's not limit technology only to just the IT part of QR code or on the internet or anything like that. But there is a natural technology even in reduction of, as you're aware, being an owner, that today your chiller systems are far more efficient, and that's also technology, right? It's not. So we have to look at all types of technology. So my point is, sometimes in our industry we kind of just focus on only IT related technology, but we use multiple types of technology for all different stakeholders. Having said that, looking at the stakeholders, what do we do for employees? How do we make their life easier? That's also important. How do we make a guest's life easier? That's important. How do you communicate with a guest? That's also important. So how they interact with your organization, whether it's your employees or your guests, how are we communicating with them through the internet or through the digital medium? How are we using AR, VR, AI, big data lake? How are we doing this to enhance our ability to provide our guests with personalized service? Coming back to your point, technology does not mean that you get rid of people and rid of everything, and then in the end there's no. This actually technology enables you to carry out a high degree of personalization at a much lower cost. So I think investment technology is expensive, no doubt about it. There's new technology coming every day, but I think it's a risk you need to take.
Good points. Would you like to add anything?
I think from a technology point of view, technology is the input and efficiency is the outcome. Now, how we marry technology to expectations, whether it is, as Rohit said, the employees, our workforce, or the guests. Now, if you can't marry technology rightly to all the stakeholders, then the technology is failed. Because it's the expectations we need to serve either by human touch or by technology. So the choice is ours, where we want to deploy technology. Technology is available. And what does technology give us? It gives us data points where we know what's happening, and that gives us efficiency. Now the choice lies with us, where we want to deploy technology to set the expectations, to serve the expectations. Our business is of relationships. You cannot take away a few things. We need to be careful as people who are in this business to see where we can use technology to get efficient and yet not take away the ethos and the intrinsic hoteliering from our business.
Thank you. I have another question for all of you, and this is coming from an owner's perspective. And I must ask an owner's question as well. Is that, in all this, while the staff has suffered, and I'm sure that everybody has suffered, while operators have got their share of management fees, but as far as owners are concerned, they have incurred huge losses. In some cases, some of the owners had actually shut down hotels because there was no business at all. So in fact, I must tell you that quite a few of us are still reeling under that losses, though the business has come back with a bang, and I'm sure that very soon will recover. But till date, quite a few of the owners are not even able to service their debt. And with the ECLGS 1, 2, 3, 4, we obviously had to take it. But ultimately what has happened is that now we are unable to even today meet the debt burden. So during this stressful time for the owners, my question to all of you is, how has your relationship evolved with them? And say both the positive, negatives, both, learning from both sides.
No, I think it's a very important point because all of us sitting here, I mean, we work as operators and we have strong owner relationships. I mean, personally, I oversee more than 50 owner relationships in the hotels that we have in the region. The point here is you have to look at it from different parts. One is, how do you make the business more profitable? So focusing on margin allows the owner to generate additional profit to pay off the debt. So let's talk about operating efficiency. So that's one bucket, and there's a lot of things that go in that bucket, including right sizing and vendoring and alternate stuff and technology interfaces, etc., etc. The second part that I think is very important is your relationship with the owner, with the backing that you have. Now, the advantage for an organization, and I'll speak for myself right now, and our organization, having the backing of the Tata Group and being around in the business for over 120 years, we have the ability to assist our owners on a short-term basis. So when you talk about fee, you don't waive off the fee. You can always defer the fee. You defer the fee to help the owner's cash flow, right? Uh, uh, Sometimes you renegotiate the contract for a longer term and bring down the fee. You can do that too to help the owner. But I think more importantly is to also leverage your relationships in the financial world to be able to get and help the owners to refinance their loans at better terms so that their cash outflows become lesser. So that can only happen if you have very strong relationships and foundation in the country and in the industry. You know, one thing that definitely what you said about ECLGS, and I have to say this, is that we've worked very hard on that. As industry leaders, many of us over here are part of the CII, National Tourism Forum. We are part of the Hotel Association of India. We're part of the WTTC. And all that we've been doing in the last 2 years is approaching the government to look for relief for our industry. So the kind of ECLGS that you're talking about today is something that has been a result of persistent effort with the powers to be. And we haven't succeeded amazingly, but I think we made some headway. And I think that's another way in which we as operators are able to help the owners by going and representing in industry forums along with the Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Tourism to try and get some relief for our industry. Has it come? We are disappointed. It hasn't come to the level that it is. But yes, it is coming, and I hope that the SCIS will come soon too.
Puneet, any comments?
Well, I think I should ask you that question because I'm the only one on the panel.
I was expecting it.
I'm the only one on the panel who manages 3 hotels for our brigade, right? No, but I think Vineet, again, from a core point of view, first of all, as you know, we have huge investment in India. We have 25 hotels in India, where we have sizable investment with our joint venture partner, Interglobe Hotels. So I think the important thing was really engagement with the owners, total transparency. We as owners, because we own and operate many of our hotels in India, understood the pain, understood the debt burden and how those payments had to be made. It was again not one size fits all. It was unique solution. It was discussion with individual owners, what suited them, right? So I think there was a lot of collaboration. And frankly, I think coming out of it now, the relationships have actually strengthened because it's a long-term partnership. And the way, again, we treated our owners and our owners treated us, that really strengthened the bond. And I think as we look forward to brighter days ahead, and in any business, there are ups and downs. But again, it's how the relationships were maintained or what unique solutions were found for the owners. That will go a long, long way.
What's been your experience, Sanjay?
So Rohit started with saying at Taj. Puneet said at Accor. I'm going to start saying as owners we. That has changed. We have become owners. So what has happened is the perspective, it's an education of perspectives which has happened. The perspectives have changed. The owners started thinking like operators and the operators became owners. So that's why I'm saying as an owner, I thought what happened was that we started understanding each other better. We are more educated and we used it as an opportunity from both the sides that now when our general manager, when they look at the business, they look at it as owners. We are the same. So that education happened. So I'm not saying at Taj this happened or at Accor this happened. I'm saying as owner this happened.
Thank you. I have one fun. I've been signaled already. I have just a few minutes left. The session has been cut short. I had a whole lot of questions. But one quick one for you, Abhishek, about this. We keep hearing about this love-hate relationship between OTAs and operators. So what do you see is the way forward? When do we get to
I think
make...
it's only love. It's only love, Vineet. It's only love. If anything, I can speak for many of the people sitting here. I think if anything, during the pandemic, our relationship with the hotels has thickened, right? It's like the best of friends come together in the toughest of the situations and we work closer. I can speak about all the 3 sitting here and Mr. Chadda here. Our relationship with many of the operators and the hotel chains has just thickened over the last 2 years. We work much more closely. We came together, we figured out, we've been speaking much more than we were maybe before. So if anything, I would say that the love-hate has become love-love. At least I can speak for us. And I presume that's the case with everyone else also.
Thank you, Abhishek. So the one final round, one question to all of you in just a couple of sentences. What is it that you would like to give as a message to the audience here, as a takeaway for this session?
Why don't we start?
Yeah. So I think one takeaway is that we've had a tough 2 years. If anything, whatever learnings we've had, let's keep some of them with us. It's something I think which every panel is talking about, including us. We take the easy way out. As things get better, we might lose some of the learnings which we have. If anything, as a group, as an industry, we should just keep some of those learnings with us. Let's not repeat some of the mistakes which we did. So tomorrow, God forbid, we have another situation staring at us. We are much more prepared.
Okay, so I think one thing that I'll say to all the colleagues here is that it's now even more important than before to keep the fire in the belly up and running, and more importantly, the passionate approach we should have for hoteliering. The passion for hoteliering is something that should not be kept at the back door. Things will happen, things will work well, sometimes things will not work well, but if you stick to your basics and you keep your basics in mind and you have a humane approach, humble approach in life, I think you can succeed.
Thank you.
So I would say adversity is your opportunity, thrive in it. I would just say that.
Thank you.
I think, Vineet, I want to take the opportunity. We have a lot of GMs, sales experts here. I think my request to all of us is we as industry have been, I think, really underselling India for a long, long time. We need to really be aggressive with our rates. We have some of the best hotels, best service in the world, and the lowest rates in the world as well. So there's no reason why our hotels shouldn't be competing on rates at international levels, because that will encourage owners like Brigade to invest into hotels, build more hotels, and of course for all of us to manage more hotels, and of course career opportunities for everyone as well. So we should really focus on our rates. Thank you.
Well said, well said. Do we have time for any quick questions or no? I'm sorry, I've been...
You can answer outside.
Okay, just two questions, please.
So this is for Sanjay and Puneet, right? Question was asked is, what were the swings in staffing across the last 4 decades in your European American properties? Because they've had different markets and all, right? Europe and America. So you all are international brands. India's going through a major crisis now. So let us know what your staffing situation in Europe and America last 4 decades, ups and downs.
So there have been ups and downs, but if you look at it, the staffing there is very well governed by the government regulations and also union. So as a chain or as a brand, you can do so much. However, there are benefits and stuff which is provided. So staffing levels, if you look at it, efficiencies are being brought in. So they are similar. They are not really going majorly down or whatever. It's looking at what the size of the business is based on that.
I think sometimes it becomes hard for us to compare with the developed economies purely because our ecosystem is still at a very nascent state in India. Because, for example, part-time, we don't have part-timers in hotels. Casuals is a huge challenge. Whereas whether you're in Europe, North America, Australia, all these casuals, whether it's agencies, part-timers, people who are willing to work on weekends or public holidays, of course, they're compensated heavily for that as well. So I think, again, these things are concepts are yet to come to India. That whole ecosystem, I think, needs to be strengthened.
Okay, one final question, please.
From Tejas, yeah.
To all of you, is that most brands seem to be doing the talent acquisition piece and retention piece in isolation in their own silos. Is there any thought to combine these efforts, because the problem is faced by the entire industry and everybody seems to be doing it in their own. I think the whole pie has shrunk suddenly, and everybody wants a bigger piece of that pie so that you get to feed your requirements. I think that, in my mind, would be counterproductive, because that only makes somebody switch jobs 3 times in a year. And I think the bigger opportunity of going to hinterland and things like that are done perhaps by individual companies and not in a cohesive and cooperative manner. Is there any thought on that front?
In my response earlier, I had mentioned something about Tata Strive, and that is we work along with the Ministry of Skilling and Development, and so it's not for only IHCL. Tata Strive trains people for the industry, and out of that, whoever we believe can fit into the ethos of IHCL are absorbed by IHCL, and the rest are released for the industry. So what I'm saying is that whether collectively, individually, we can join together and have something like FHRAI has an institute. Maybe that may work or not work, but what can work is individually develop trained manpower for the industry at large, right? So you can do it individually if you're not going to do it collectively. So, and I'm sure there are many other organizations who are doing the same thing too at different levels. I'm only giving an example of what we do at IHCL.
So thank you, Sanjay, Rohit, Puneet, Abhishek. I think it's been a very useful session as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure the audience would agree that we've taken away a lot of good messages and a lot of encouragement and motivation that good times are ahead of us. So let's keep it up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.